It's raining again. Let's make a run for it. Alright, well, I got a little bit wet, not too bad. It's just another rainy afternoon here in Florida, but that's okay because I'm happy to be in here and we're going to make a lure today, but kind of a lure in keeping with that weird little gizmo I made to attach to the back of a soft plastic. So this little guy, I want to make a hard plastic kind of half a lure that you attach a soft plastic worm or lizard to. I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's basically just a half of a crankbait, the front half. It'll be rounded so it'll look kind of like a worm shape, but it'll have a dive lip and like a coil screw in the back so you can screw on whatever soft plastic you like. I think a nice tapered worm is going to look best. But let me show you what it'll look like. And that's it. It's going to be a real simple build. If you don't know what that's supposed to be, it'll be one of these drywall mounting screws. So we'll need these drywall mounting screws, some hook hangers, and these dive lips. And the little beads are going to be for eyes. And of course, we're going to need a piece of dowel. All right, so we have our little 1.5 inch piece of dowel, and since the nose of the worm head, I guess, comes down to a point below the center, I'm gonna mark a little spot just below the center, and I'm gonna use that as my center point to grind down to as I sand this shape in. And you see the shape sort of zeroes in on that spot, but it's not symmetric, right? It dives in a little more from the top and a little less from the bottom. All right, now I'm gonna put a little line across the bottom of it for reference, because I'm gonna need that for when I cut the slot and for the little eye sockets. What I'll do is just mark what I think is the very bottom of the lure, and then I'll set this on a straight edge so I can just run the pencil across that center line. All right, now I need to put a line across to mark where I want to cut in the lip slot. I'm treating this like a little crankbait, a half of one. I'm not really worried about how precise the action is on this thing. I just want it to have a good wobble. I'm going to take this little saw and set it vertically, and I should be able to get a 45-degree angle with the body set at 45. And I just have to be sure that I keep a nice square cut with that center line I drew. So on the next step, I need to drill a pretty big hole, 3/8 of an inch on this 1/2 inch dowel. So it's kind of critical I get that center point just right. And I drilled that in about 3/8 of an inch. All right, before we move on, I put this thing back in the vise, and I'm gonna widen this little slot with a broken hacksaw blade where I glued two pieces together. It gives me the perfect width to be able to mount one of these little bibs. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so what you need to remember is what I'm making is actually the master for putting in the mold. This isn't what I'm actually going to use to fish with. This is just what I'm using to be able to make a mold. And then we'll cast these things out of 2-part resin and probably not even use micro balloons because we really don't need it to be buoyant. I want it to kind of sink a little bit head first, taking that soft plastic tail down, kind of like a jig head would. All right, now we need to put the screw in the little cup. And I'm gonna do that using some crazy glue. I'll spritz it with some activator to speed up the process. Now I'm gonna fill this cavity with some resin. And I keep my resin in the little mini fridge because I find it just lengthens the shelf life of it. So now I'm just gonna mix 1 gram of each of the components and pour it right into that little cup. All right, it's ready to go. It's about to set off. So we'll just pour it into this little gap. There we go. Now it'll take maybe 15 minutes for this thing to set up, and we'll get back to it. All right, in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and make this little clay bed out of this little frame of Lego blocks. And I'm just gonna stick this bit of clay in here, and it'll create a bed that I can then embed the 2 masters in here. And I've got one kind of head start on one, and so it'll fit in here, something like that. All right, I lengthened the mold just a block width more because I miscalculated how long I actually needed it. Oh well, best laid plans. The only thing I have left to do is to install the little hardware on the other one, and then we'll have to give them both a little bit of a light resin coat, some UV resin, just to get them nice and smooth. So I wiped them down with some alcohol, and now I'm just putting a light coat of UV resin just to give it a less porous surface. So when it comes out, it's a little smoother, it's gonna paint a little nicer. And we just turn on the lights and wait I don't know, 30-40 minutes till we can get it out and put it into that clay bed. All right, it's been long enough, about an hour actually. All right, that doesn't look too bad, nice and shiny and smooth. That'll have to do. Let's go ahead and get these things in the clay. All right, so now they're embedded in there, and what I need to do is to just get the clay up against the body so I've got a nice seam line, and when I'm ready to pour the silicone, I'll come back to it. All right, so it's pretty much done as far as getting all the clay around it. I've also, if you can see, I've put in a couple of clay shaped sprues. That's gonna form the opening so I can pour the resin in. And then these little pieces of thin solder that I've put in here, they're all to form vents. All right, so now I need to build up the Lego block walls about 1/4 inch above the body. And then we'll go ahead and mix and pour the silicone. All right, I'm gonna be using this Smooth On silicone. It's the Umu 30. I've got my marks on my cup. I measured the inside dimensions of the box, and I just multiplied that, and that gave me 60 milliliters. And so I'm just gonna do 30 of each. All right, I got the second half in there. Part B is the pink stuff. It is thick. You know, I'm a little bit disappointed in the shelf life of the Smooth On stuff. Apparently, after you open the pink stuff, the Part A, it doesn't last. All right, let's get this mixed up. Yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of a little stiff. I hope it works. All right, I've got it pretty much stirred up. It's one color now. And now what I like to do is just smear a little bit on the surface to make sure there's no bubbles between the surface of the blank and the actual silicone, and then I'll pour in the rest of it. All right, hopefully that helped. So this is not the usual way this happens. Usually it's much less viscous and pours much more easily. This is not a very good sign. Hopefully it'll still set up and act normal later. Well, I got it all out of the cup. That's a good thing. and I think it'll level off. All right, it looks like it's starting to level a little bit. The bubbles are still coming out, so that's a good sign. So maybe we can pull this out. Fresh new day. It's sunny and really pretty out. So hopefully I'll get some fishing done. But I think our mold silicone is set nicely, which I had my doubts. Just want to get this clay out of here. Let's see how this kind of rolls off. All right, got to do a little cleaning up, but looking pretty good. So I'm just going to scrape out the excess clay that got left in there. It's not much. Then I'll wipe it all down and we'll pour that second half. All right, I've cleaned it out, and now I need to level it. I've just made some little clay legs because the bottom part of it is so sort of wonky. So I think I can just level it like this. All right, that'll do. All right, it's behaving a little better than yesterday. I think a little time in the refrigerator actually helped, believe it or not. All right, looks like I got all the bubbles, and now we can just pour it in. So now it's just a matter of waiting like 6 hours for this thing to set up. You know, while I was going around mowing this property the last 2 hours, it came to me that I made a major mistake making that mold. I forgot to put Vaseline between the 2 layers. So now it's an uphill battle trying to salvage that mold. So the good news is that it's set up perfectly. The bad news is that we're gonna have to cut this thing open because right now it's just a solid lump of silicone. Get rid of the legs. So as I predicted, it's a solid mass. The typical method to deal with this kind of thing, well, actually a lot of people will pour one-piece mold and then cut it open. But you kind of have to plan for it. So what I'm going to do is take this scalpel, which is super sharp, and cut in a line that sort of meanders a little bit. But the thing is I need a nice straight cut where the little hook hangers are, because I need to be able to set a little mini harness in there. Do a bit of a serpentine cut at the bottom. This is going to take me some time, so. Wow. Now it's just a matter of making sure all the vents are going to work. All right, well, in the end, it's not horrible, but it's not great either. All we can do is put it together and give it a shot. But first we need to make a wire harness, actually 2. And I start off by just making an eye on this one piece, about 3-inch wire. And then I'm going to mark it where the second bend has got to be, because it needs to go up and over the dive lip. And now I need to give it a little bend right where that back hook eye is, so I know exactly where to put that last twist eye. All right, I've set both little wire harnesses in there, and I got lucky that when I cut it, I actually cut it close enough to the original little eyes, and I've got a little place to put these and they stay in place. That is critical, and hope for the best. Fingers crossed, we're gonna go ahead and pour the first ones. All right, I've got it out of the holder and it looks like it's set up. Had a little bit of a leak. I'm telling you, I'm a disaster today. All right, looking pretty good. Oh yeah, All right, not too bad considering the disaster I actually set us up for. I think we can make that work. And if you've made it this far in the video, I assume you're getting something out of it. Click that like button. It's easy to do, doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps to build the channel. All right, we'll paint and we'll go fishing with these things. Or at the very least, we'll get some underwater shots of these things swimming. So I'm gonna paint one to sort of match Senko, this green pumpkin. And I want to match this thing, this sort of eel, and I'm going to do that for saltwater, and I'll do that with the other one. My intention is to clear coat this one with just regular clear coat, and this one I'm going to put some sparkles in. Alright, I've given them a quick coat of polyacrylic as a mid coat just to seal the paint, but I'm going to go ahead and let them dry here for a little while, and then we'll go ahead and put the clear coat on. Alright, they're done, and now I've got to install the dive bib. That looks pretty nice. And I've already got the dive bib on this one. And I'll just do it with more of that UV resin and using that as glue. And I'll sight this thing. And try to get the colors to match up a little bit. And there you go. This ought to be fun. Out here on the big lake, Lake Santa Fe, and I'm gonna put this one in the water first because it's really bright and easy to see. All right, check it out. Look at that thing. Oh my goodness. Alright, let's put the other one on, see what the Senko one looks like. Alright, there it is. Let's give it a shot. Alright. Alright, let's see if we can get some underwater shots. Alright, looks like we got a little one. Not too bad. I had to change the trailer because somebody ripped the other one off. Alright. I think I can still tweak it a little bit and make it a little better. I think I can shorten that screw just a little bit, but it really works really well with like narrow little tapered tails. Really has a really nice movement. All right, folks, that's it for this episode. I hope you were inspired to do something different yourself. I'll see you guys next Friday.